You said you could share a bed with a friend. I agreed and left. 3 days later, she called crying. But I was on a date with someone who respected boundaries that I've always believed relationships in long before the final conversation. Not in a dramatic, movie way, but in a slow, almost imperceptible drift. Like two people sitting in a boat while the current quietly rotates them in opposite directions. I didn't notice it happening with Mia at first. Or maybe I noticed and convinced myself it wasn't a warning. That's more honest. She and I had been together a little under a year, long enough to fall into routines, short enough that I still felt like I was proving myself. She had that effect on people. Mia was one of those effortlessly charismatic types. Loud laugh, bold opinions, unfiltered charm. The kind of person who said whatever came into her head and trusted the world to adjust around her. I used to find that refreshing. Back then, the first shift. It was a Thursday, the quiet, background noise kind of Thursday where nothing should matter, when Mia mentioned, almost casually, that her ex, Ray, was back in town. I remember blinking at my phone as her message came in. Mia, OMG, Ray's moving back. We might hang out this weekend. He wants to catch up. I wasn't jealous, but something in my chest tightened, a reflex more than a thought. Ray wasn't just any ex. They'd dated for years on and off, the kind of relationship that leaves debris, inside jokes, old habits, unresolved corners. I typed, deleted, retyped. Me. Okay, just let me know what the plan is. She replied instantly. Mia, don't worry, you're not competing. I just don't want things to be weird. Except that message made it weird. But I swallowed it, the way I'd been swallowing a lot of things lately. The slow creep of boundaries shifting. Friday night, she came home later than usual. Hair messy, that faint smell of a cheap bar mixed with citrus perfume, the one she only wore when she wanted to feel interesting. Ray and I grabbed drinks, she said breezily, kicking off her shoes. It wasn't planned. Okay, I said, because what else was I supposed to say? I could feel myself tightening, like a bolt someone else kept twisting. She noticed. She always noticed. You're not going to be one of those possessive guys, right? She asked, eyes narrowed in playful accusation. No, I replied too quickly. I'm not. I didn't want to be. I'd dated people like that. I'd sworn never to replicate that energy. But I also didn't expect to feel this excluded. The bed-sharing bombshell. Saturday afternoon. Less than 24 hours later, she dropped the sentence that broke whatever weak scaffolding was still holding my patience together. We were in the kitchen. She was cutting limes. I was unloading the dishwasher. Totally normal domestic scene, until she said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Ray might crash here tonight. He had too much to drink and doesn't want to Uber all the way back to his place." I froze, a plate in my hand. You mean on the couch? I asked carefully. She raised an eyebrow like I'd just suggested something old-fashioned and embarrassing. No, in my bed. It's fine. We've done it a million times. The plate in my hand felt heavier. Mia, that's not appropriate, I said, quiet but steady. She didn't flinch, didn't even look up. Just kept slicing limes like this was about fruit and not the slow erosion of respect. You're acting possessive, she said flatly. I can share a bed with a friend. I'm not going to police myself because you're insecure. Insecure, I repeated, like I was tasting a foreign word. I wasn't shouting. I wasn't even angry. Just confused by the surreal tone of the conversation, by her casualness. You wouldn't be comfortable if I shared a bed with an ex, I said. That's different, she said without hesitation. Why? Because you're not me. The decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. Something inside me clicked. Not snapped. Not broke. Just clicked, like a puzzle piece sliding into the only place it ever actually belonged. Okay, I said. You're right. Her knife paused mid-cut. She'd expected an argument, maybe a sulk, maybe some performative ultimatum. She wasn't prepared for calm. What do you mean, okay? I mean, you're right. If that's how you want to handle boundaries, I can't change it. So I'll remove myself. What? She laughed like I'd said something absurd. I grabbed my overnight bag from the hall closet. I don't know why I'd packed it days earlier. Or maybe I did know. Mia, I said, I'm going to stay at my brother's for a few days. Think things over. You're overreacting, she scoffed. It's just sleep. I didn't argue. Didn't defend myself. Didn't explain. I just left. Walked to my car without slamming the door, without saying anything dramatic. Because the second you find yourself debating whether your partner sharing a bed with an ex is normal, You already have your answer. 3 days of silence. I spent 3 days at my brother's, sleeping on his couch, eating whatever he cooked, replaying everything in my head. Not the incident. That part was painfully clear. But the pattern. The little jokes at my expense. The "you're too sensitive" comments. The way she always framed her disrespect as my insecurity. 3 days of clarity. 3 days of remembering what inner peace feels like when no one is stomping on it. And then the call came. Day 3, around noon. My phone buzzed. Mia. First text. Call me. Urgent. Then another. Please. Then a missed call. Then another. Finally, I picked up. She was crying. The ugly, panicked kind. Not her performative sniffle cry. Ray's girlfriend showed up, she sobbed. She thought I was trying to hook up with him. She screamed at me in the hallway. She said I was disgusting, she said. I let her speak. Pour it all out. Let the tears drown the confidence she'd worn like armor. Then she said it. I need you to come home. Please. I want to fix things. I'm sorry, but I wasn't at my brother's anymore. I was sitting across from a woman in a soft green sweater, tapping her spoon against a latte. A woman who didn't share beds with exes. A woman who knew what boundaries meant. A woman who asked me questions and actually waited for the answers. I looked at Mia's name flashing on my phone, and then I looked up at the woman smiling at me. I can't, I finally said. Why not? Mia cried. I glanced across the table. Because I'm on a coffee date. Silence. Then a choked inhale. A date, she whispered. With someone, I said, who doesn't treat respect like a negotiation. And for the first time in a year, I felt something unfamiliar. Relief that I don't think Mia expected me to follow through with distance. She thought my leaving was an emotional gesture, something meant to scare her, something temporary. She didn't understand that the moment she called me possessive for having a boundary, something in me quietly powered down. The truth is, I didn't leave to punish her. I left because the relationship stopped feeling like a partnership and started feeling like a test I was always failing. And when you finally acknowledge that, it's like stepping outside after months in a damp apartment. You realize you'd forgotten what clean air feels like. So when Mia called, crying and frantic after the incident with Ray's girlfriend, the panic in her voice didn't pull me back. It didn't even move me. It just floated past me. By the time she called again, I was already back at my place, the apartment we'd shared. My brother had come with me. He stood quietly in the corner while I packed my things into boxes, only asking once. You sure you want to do this calmly? You don't want to talk to her first? No, I said. Talking is how we always delayed the inevitable. I don't want to be talked out of my own clarity again. He nodded. He got it. While we packed, Mia was blowing up my phone, messages pinging back to back. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. You know I'd never cheat. Can you please just come talk to me? And then, eventually, I don't want to lose you. But there's a point where sorry stops meaning anything, where apologies just slide off like water off wax. When we finished packing, I called the building manager and arranged to remove my name from the lease. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't hostile, just done. By the time I left, Mia still hadn't come home. I didn't wait for her. That night, I didn't sleep much. Not out of heartbreak. More like the brain finally catching up to emotions it had shoved into the closet. I kept replaying our last conversation in the kitchen. The calmness in her voice when she'd said she could share a bed with Ray. The certainty. The casual entitlement of someone who'd never once stopped to think about how her choices landed on anyone else. It wasn't cheating. It wasn't betrayal in the traditional sense. It was something deeper, an erosion of respect. You can fix distance. You can fix miscommunication. But you can't fix someone who genuinely believes their boundaries matter more than yours. The next day, Mia texted again. Can we please talk? I'm home. I don't want to talk in person, I replied. Why not? I stared at the message for a while before typing. Because when I talk to you in person, you're very good at making me feel like my feelings are the problem. And I finally don't believe that anymore. She didn't reply to that one. Later that afternoon, while I was assembling the cheap bookshelf I'd bought for my new place, she called again. This time I answered. Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. I didn't sleep with him, she said immediately. I swear to God, I didn't. Nothing happened. I know, I said. She paused, confused. You know? This was never about you sleeping with him, I said. It was about you ignoring my boundaries and calling me insecure for having them. She let out a shaky breath. I didn't realize how it sounded, she whispered. I thought you trusted me. Mia. I said. Trust isn't the issue. Respect is. Silence. Then she exhaled sharply, like it finally registered. I messed up, she said. I know I did. But leaving? Was that really necessary? Yes. A long pause. I could picture her standing in our old living room, pacing the way she always did during arguments, twisting the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Finally, she said, I didn't think you'd actually go. I know, I replied. That's part of the problem. She sniffed, like she was rubbing her nose with the heel of her hand. So what now? Her voice was quiet, almost defeated. I'm not coming back, I said. I want you to know that clearly. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. All she said was, I wish you'd give me another chance. I did, I said softly. Every time you pushed a little further. Another silence. And then, is this because you're seeing someone? Is that what this is really about? I closed my eyes. No, I said. This is because I finally realized I deserve to feel safe in a relationship. She exhaled shakily. I hope she treats you better than I did, she said, and the sincerity in her voice surprised me. I really do. Thank you, I said. She didn't say goodbye. She just hung up. When I looked at the phone afterward, I didn't feel triumphant, or relieved, or righteous. The overwhelming emotion was sadness, not for losing her, but for the version of me that tolerated so much in the hope that someone else would eventually give back what I kept giving. It hit me that I'd been compromising in places you aren't supposed to compromise. Dignity, boundaries, self-worth. Walking away wasn't about punishing Mia. It was about finally choosing myself. And yeah, it hurt. But there was something almost liberating in that hurt, like pulling a splinter out that had been buried deep for months. It stings, but you know healing finally gets to start. Update that I didn't expect the story to spread. I especially didn't expect her version to spread first. But that's exactly what happened. About a week after our last real phone call, I got a text from a mutual friend, Mark, someone who'd always been more her friend than mine. He wasn't dramatic, so when he messaged, bro, what the hell happened between you two? My stomach tightened a little. I called him. He didn't even say hello. So, he began bluntly. Are you seriously dating someone else already? Is that why you dumped her? I sat down on my new couch, the one my brother and I had dragged up 2 flights of stairs, and closed my eyes for a moment. Is that what she's telling people? I asked. That you left her for another girl, Mark said. Yeah. And some version where you ran off because you couldn't handle her having male friends. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I suddenly understood why Mia had sounded so defensive during our last call. She didn't tell you the real story? I asked. Mark hesitated. Well, she said you got paranoid over her ex sleeping over, and that you yelled at her. I almost choked. I didn't yell, I said. Not once. Okay, but did you tell her she couldn't be friends with Ray? I didn't say that either. I said sharing a bed with your ex is a boundary for me. She said you called her names. I rubbed my forehead, realizing how quickly narratives mutate once pride gets involved. Mark, I said slowly. I left because when I said I was uncomfortable, she called me possessive and insecure. She told me she was still going to do whatever she wanted. And I respected that by removing myself. He was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he exhaled. Damn, he said. That's different from what she said. Yeah, I replied. I figured. Our call ended on a neutral note. Not hostile, not friendly. Just the space where truth starts to rearrange itself after being bent. The next day, another message came, this time from Ray's girlfriend. I didn't expect that. She found me on Instagram, probably through Mia's following list. The message was short. Hey, I'm sorry for the scene I caused at Mia's place. I thought you should know the full story if you ever want to hear it. I didn't respond right away. Something about contacting the girlfriend of your ex's ex felt like crossing a weird line. 2 days later, I finally replied. If you want to tell me, I'm willing to listen. She wrote back within minutes. He told me Mia still had feelings for him, that she'd been trying to get close again, that she invited him to stay over. My hand stilled. Invited him? I typed. She said he drank too much and asked to stay. No, the girlfriend replied. She invited him to crash for nostalgia. He showed me the texts. I sat back, staring at the screen. Not because it hurt, surprisingly, it didn't, but because it validated every instinct I'd silenced. Every time I'd swallowed discomfort. Every time she'd said, trust me, with a tone that implied I was the defective one. Every time she'd insisted her choices were harmless. And I doubted myself. I messaged back one thing. Thank you. She replied. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. Later that same evening, another surprise came. A message from Mia herself. This one wasn't emotional. No apologies. No panic. Just two sentences. People are talking. I know what they're saying. Can you please tell Mark your version? I stared at those lines for a long while. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because everything about the request revealed exactly how Mia functioned. It wasn't, I want to tell the truth. It was, change the public perception of me. I typed slowly, deliberately. I already told him. The truth, not a version. She read it immediately. Three dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then, I didn't lie. I just didn't want to look crazy. I took a deep breath. You didn't lie? I wrote. So telling people I dumped you for another girl wasn't a lie? This time she waited longer before replying. I was hurt, she wrote. I needed a reason that didn't make me look like the bad guy. There it was. The quiet thesis of our entire relationship. Image over accountability. Comfort over honesty. Self-protection over mutual respect. I typed one last message. Mia, I'm not going to spend weeks fixing other people's perceptions. I'm not mad at you. I'm not seeking revenge. I just want to move on. I hope you do too. She didn't reply. The woman from the coffee date. Her name is Elise, and I kept seeing each other casually. No pressure. No intensity. Just easy conversations and an unexpected sense of calm. She asked me once, so what exactly happened with your ex? And I told her the truth in a short, simple paragraph. When I finished, she just nodded and said, yeah, that would have been a deal breaker for me too. No drama. No judgment. No performative sympathy. Just alignment. I didn't realize how refreshing that could be. The strange thing is, my life didn't dramatically improve after Mia. It didn't suddenly become amazing, but it became peaceful. And peace is something you don't know you're missing until you finally have it. Final update that it's been a few months now. Enough time for the dust to settle, for the noise to fade, and for the truth, the real, unpolished truth, to finally make itself known. I didn't expect to write a final update. I thought the story had already ended. I left, I moved out. She spread her version, I corrected mine, and life moved on. But endings aren't a single event. They're a series of small things you don't realize are closing doors until you're already on the other side. And a few of those moments deserve to be written down. The last time I saw Mia, it happened about 6 weeks after the breakup. I went back to the old building to pick up mail that had been delivered under my name by mistake. The front desk guy recognized me, apologized, handed me a stack of envelopes, and I was about to walk out when the elevator dinged. She stepped out. Mia, hair messy in a way that wasn't deliberate. Eyes tired. Sweatshirt sleeves chewed at the ends. An old nervous habit she'd hidden well when we were together. We both froze. Not dramatically, not painfully. Just that awkward moment where two people realize they used to orbit each other, and now they're on completely separate paths. She walked toward me slowly. Hey, she said, voice small. Hey, you look good, she said. You do too. It wasn't true, but it wasn't unkind either. It was neutral, respectful. She swallowed. I heard you're seeing someone. I nodded. It's not anything serious yet. But yeah, something shifted in her expression. Not envy, not anger, just a quiet, tired resignation. I'm glad, she said. Really, I believed her. And maybe because of that, I asked, how are you doing? A simple question, but it cracked something in her. She exhaled shakily. I'm working on myself, she said. We're trying to. I didn't reply, letting her speak. I know I messed things up, she continued. And I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I've been thinking a lot. About everything. My boundaries. Yours. How I reacted. How I made you feel. She looked up then, eyes glassy but steady. I didn't get it before. Any of it. I thought compromise meant someone else always adjusted to me. I didn't realize how much I was asking you to shrink. You didn't deserve that. It didn't feel like manipulation. It didn't feel like a performance. It felt like acceptance, the quiet, untheatrical kind. Mia, I said softly, I don't hate you. I never did. Her shoulders dropped in relief. Thank you, she whispered. We stood there for a moment, not as partners, not as enemies, just two people who finally understood each other too late. I hope you're okay, I said genuinely. She nodded. You too. We didn't hug. We didn't linger. We just walked past each other, gently, finally letting the moment be what it was. Closure. Not reunion. Not redemption. Just closure. What happened with Elise? This part surprised me. Elise and I didn't turn into a whirlwind romance. It wasn't fireworks or instant soulmates. It was slow, intentional, quiet in a way that made me realize how loud my old relationship had been. We started seeing each other once or twice a week. Coffee, walks, a museum, sometimes just sitting in her apartment talking for hours. No pressure, no rushing, no expectations. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, her slicing vegetables, me burning garlic, she said, "You know, you're very easy to be around." I laughed. Most women I've dated wouldn't agree. She shrugged. That's because they mistook chaos for chemistry. I don't know why, but that sentence hit me harder than anything Mia ever said. Chaos for chemistry, noise for passion, disrespect for independence. Something inside me finally loosened. I don't know if Elise and I will end up long term. I don't know if this is forever. But for the first time in a long time, I'm not trying to earn the basics: respect, consistency, consideration. And the lack of anxiety feels like its own kind of affection. What I learned the hard way. When you're finally out of a toxic dynamic, you realize how normalized everything had become. Doubting your own feelings. Being called insecure for having boundaries. Being talked over. Being made to feel like the problem. Being convinced your discomfort was a flaw. Being told it's not that serious about things that actually matter. Mia wasn't evil. She wasn't malicious. She wasn't trying to destroy anything. She simply lived in a world where her choices were supposed to be accommodated by everyone else. And I lived in a world where I mistook endurance for patience. It took one final line, sharing a bed with her ex, to snap the last string holding everything together. Not because of jealousy, but because of what it revealed. That she genuinely didn't see me as someone who deserved boundaries. That she didn't think my comfort mattered. That she assumed I'd stay no matter how far she pushed the line. And she wasn't wrong. Not until the moment I finally walked away. The real ending. There's no big, dramatic finale. No revenge. No triumphant glow-up. Just the quiet, heavy awareness that walking away from someone you love can be the most self-respecting thing you ever do. And the slow, steady realization that peace is something you protect, not something you negotiate. I'm living alone now. Work is good. My brother and I are closer. I see Elise, but we're taking it slow. There's no fairy tale, no fireworks, no instant healing. Just better sleep, less anxiety, clearer boundaries, and an honesty I didn't know I was allowed to have. It's not a happy ending. It's an honest one, and that feels like enough.